Hey, my name is Anthony Romano, and I'm going to analyze myths about keto long term in this video. So, when we're talking about doing keto long term, you guys know I love doing keto long term, and I've been doing it for 8 years since I was 15 years old. Now, does this mean I've been ketogenic the entire time, every single day? No, but have there been years where I've done keto for a year straight? Hell yeah. Have there been times where I've done carb backloads every other weekend? Yes, I absolutely have. So I've done keto basically in every way, shape, and form, in every duration of time, in every combination of duration of time. Personally, myself, I have, and I've worked with people who've done a variety of different techniques with it through my coaching clients and other people I've worked with over the years. So I will tell you from personal experience that I have never seen anybody get any sort of complications long term from keto, and the only thing people would get would be, example, if they first of all, some people in the beginning, keto week number 1 is hard. It is hard because your body is quitting its addiction to sugar. Not everybody is addicted to sugar, but if you are, you will know for sure after week 1. So that's not even really keto's fault. That's more of the withdrawal effects of sugar. So from there, the only problem people really have is, let's say they were extremely addicted to sugar or experienced symptoms in the first place, and then they go keto for a while, and then they have a freaking, crazy carb day. They will feel like shit because it's basically like they quit a drug and then they gave shitloads of that drug into their body, okay? And they had reactions to it because they're sensitive to it now again. So some people do have that. Now, listen carefully, because even though some people get that, a lot of times that reaction is actually created by eating shitty processed food. Realistically, somebody could actually eat just pure carbs, right? But if they get it from, Twinkies, they're probably going to feel like shit from the processed hydrogenated oils in there, the extra MSG and other excitatory neurotoxins in there that are designed to jack up your brain's excitatory neurotransmitters to give you a bigger reward response. Or if someone's having very high fructose sweetened sweets, because fructose gets digested in your liver, which will make you feel sick. Oftentimes people actually get sick from alcohol because they have drinks that are sweetened with high fructose corn syrup, and when their liver's already processing that much alcohol, and then you throw in a large amount of a sugar that gets digested in the liver, which, by the way, high fructose corn syrup is fructose, so fruit sugar, that gets digested in your liver, and it's created into a syrup which has way more actual quantity of fructose in it. So basically, you're putting the type of sugar that gets digested in the liver in a dosage that it was never meant to handle anyways. So that's typically the scenarios where people actually get like a, shitty feeling from carb loading on a certain day afterwards, or just eating carbs. You never get people who eat a bowl of oatmeal and then feel like shit after doing keto for a few months. It just doesn't happen. It's always from processed foods or just ridiculous amounts of sugar, most likely the combination of the two. So let's move into the next criticism here then. Some people will say you will get insulin resistance if you do keto long term, or you will get, no ability to digest carbs. You'll never be able to eat carbs again. That is complete bullshit, okay? It's complete lies. And I know because there's been years where I've done keto for like almost 2 years straight, okay? There's been times where I've done that, like basically a year and 6 months. So it's probably the longest I've ever done keto without breaking. I don't want to use the word cheating because it's a lifestyle for me. It's not like I'm doing it for a fat loss goal all the time. I like the way I feel with keto, and I eat that way 90% of the year. So when we're talking about insulin resistance long term, this is a question I had from some people, and it's basically a straw man argument that a lot of people use against keto when they don't understand it, because, like I said, you will sensitize yourself to carbs, and then if you have a bunch of junk food, you will feel like shit. Big surprise. In the beginning, if you eat a lot of junk food and you quit junk food, you will feel like shit. Big surprise. But here's the thing. Even I had made a video on diabetics because I've worked with plenty of diabetics, and I've reversed more cases of diabetes than I have hands to count them on. Okay, this is from personal working with people one-on-one locally. And even outside of locally. But most of them were local because it's easier to work with people in a severe situation like that when I am not giving broad sweeping generalizations on the internet. So people are worried about insulin resistance. That is the primary problem that type 2 diabetics have. Essentially, they've had so much sugar over the course of their life that their insulin's getting released all the time because their blood sugar is high, and this eventually makes them less sensitive to insulin. So the more you have of anything, the less sensitive you become to it. So when people are worried about insulin sensitivity from keto, it's basically the abstaining from sugar all the time, where people are slightly less sensitive to insulin if they do keto for a long ass time. So if somebody does keto for basically a year and they haven't trained their body to jump in and out, yeah, they're probably going to be slightly less sensitive to insulin if they've maintained a low insulin type of keto diet for a long time. So keep in mind, the type of keto diet that would actually keep you less sensitive to insulin is one that doesn't permit any insulin spikes. It doesn't permit big protein meals. That is really the only scenario where you're going to have people get less sensitive to insulin, because they're keeping their insulin low all the time. So having high insulin all the time and having no insulin all the time are the two surefire ways to reduce your insulin sensitivity. However, you would have to do a very long keto diet to do this, and you would have to do the type of keto diet that always keeps your insulin low. So the ones that were prescribed for children in the 1920s who had epilepsy, because those ones, the original keto diets prioritized high ketones, low insulin, because without that, children would have seizures, and that is obviously not good for children with epilepsy. So when we're looking at, are you going to get insulin resistance from long-term keto? Unless you're doing a keto diet that resembles that for a year or longer, you probably will have no difference at all in your insulin sensitivity. In fact, it's going to get better. In fact, it gets better before even those small variety people get worse, because you have to understand, insulin resistance comes from jacking up insulin all the time. Not having insulin at first for a few months is going to make you more sensitive, but after a certain point, it's going to experience some diminishing returns. So your body's going to get used to having very little insulin all the time. Again, only if you follow that certain type of keto diet. And then if you did play that scenario out as long as you could, at first your sensitivity is not going to be as sharp, right? But you're still going to be way more insulin sensitive than you were in the first place. So when it comes to insulin sensitivity on keto, you don't have to worry about that. It's simply a strawman argument, because a very, very, very small anomaly of people have experienced that when they've done very extensive keto diets that prioritized low insulin all the time. So, again, you can still get an insulin spike on keto, and in fact, that's the premise of many keto bulks. But I believe I've handled this one as much as it needs to be handled, and as far as doing keto long-term, you don't have to worry about any of that. The only thing you do have to be cautious for is that you don't tax yourself with a binge cheat meal, but I guess that really goes for any diet. That is it. Anthony Romano, peace.